Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Sachin Nachnani. So today I'll be talking about the outlook of SBI. Yes, State Bank of India, which is the largest bank in India, after it has announced its fourth quarter results on Friday. Now most of you must have already seen the results, but I will summarize it for you and show you the outlook going forward. But before I start, let me make one thing very clear. I understand that most investors find it very difficult to understand the financials of any banks, the P&L, balance sheet, etc. Now, keeping that in mind, I will only be covering the most basic yet very important parameters for the bank. And to make it further easier, I'll be rounding off all the numbers. So, let's start with the result summary. So, the net interest income. Now, the net interest income is basically the difference between the interest earned by the bank on loans and the interest paid by it on deposits in very simple terms. The net interest income was around 23,000 crores for fourth quarter. That was a decline of 1% on a YOY basis. YOY basically means year over year, which is March quarter of this year over March quarter of last year. And on a QOQ basis, QOQ means quarter over quarter. It again means March quarter over December quarter of 2019. So there was a decline of 18%. Operating profit was around 18,000 crores. That was an increase of 9% on a YOY basis and 1% on a QOQ basis. Now, provision for NPAs. Now, NPAs, as you all know, is non-performing assets, and provision for that actually declined by 31% on a YOY basis to 12,000 crores, but it was a sharp jump of 45,000 crores on a QOQ basis. So effectively, net profit after accounting for everything comes to 3,600 crores for the quarter. Now, if you see it on a YOY basis, it appears a big jump of over 300%, but that's because it includes an exceptional item of stake sale in SBI cards. As we all know, it sold a minority stake in SBI cards in February that got listed in March this year. So from that, it received an income of around 2,700 crores. So because of that, there is a sharp jump in net profit. But otherwise, overall, if you see, the operational results are just about in line, or so to say, okay types. One good thing about the results was the moratorium. Now that comes to only around 23%. So just to tell you what moratorium means if you are not aware. So moratorium basically means that it is a temporary holiday from payment of your loan installments or EMIs. So that comes to around 23%, which is relatively okay in comparison to other large banks. Now we have a look at some other parameters, especially on the asset quality side. So the gross NPAs have come to around 1,50,000 crore rupees. All these numbers are in crores of rupees when I speak of NPAs in absolute terms. That has come down by 7% on a QOQ basis. Even the gross NPA as a percentage has come down by 79 basis points over the last quarter to 6.2%. So both of them are very good numbers. Even the net NPA has come down to 52,000 crore rupees, which is a decline of about 11% over the last quarter. Even the net NPA percent has come down by 42 basis points over the last quarter, and it stands at 2.2%. Again, both are very good numbers, and let me tell you that both gross and net NPAs have been falling for the last 5 quarters. Each and every quarter they have been falling over the previous quarter also. So that's a big positive in itself. Slippages. Now, slippages is basically those loans that have slipped into NPAs in this quarter. Now that number is also down by 51% to 8,000 crore rupees. In fact, slippages now are at a 4-quarter low. Lastly, provision coverage ratio that stands at 65%, which has increased by 170 basis points over the previous quarter. So this is a big positive. But even within that, on the corporate side, it stands at 78%. So that's another big positive. So you can see from all these parameters that on the asset quality front, the results are fantastic. And this explains the sharp 8% jump in the stock price of SBI on Friday immediately after announcement of results. Let's look at some other parameters. There are some concerns also. Let me address some of them. The domestic net interest margin, which is also called as NIM, which is derived from the net interest income that we saw earlier, has come down by 65 basis points over the previous quarter. And it stands now at below 3% at 2.94%. ROA basically means return on assets, and that's the profitability of the bank on the total size of its, on the total asset size of the bank. That has also declined by 23 basis points and it stands at around 0.4%. Both of them are big negatives. Now, if you look at capital adequacy ratio, which are according to Basel norms, so that stands at 13%. That is down by 59 basis points. And even within that, CET1, that's Common Equity Tier 1 ratio, it basically comprises of the equity share capital of the bank, to put it in very simple terms for your understanding. That has come down below 10% to 9.8%. That is down by 41 basis points over the previous quarter. Now, although the capital adequacy ratio and CET1 are still above the minimum regulatory requirements, but in comparison to other banks on the private sector side, the numbers are relatively lower. So that is why I believe that these are some of the negative factors in the results of the bank. Loan growth. Now, loan growth is just improved by 5% over the previous quarter to 24 lakh crores. Yes, that's a big number, 24 lakh crores, but that's a rise of only 5%. I understand that the base is very high, but we need to understand that if the loan does not grow in a growing economy, except for the last 2-3 months, if the loan growth is very low, then the profitability ultimately gets impacted. So that is another concern for me. And lastly, one major factor that nobody has been talking about, you can read any research report, you can see any YouTube video, you can listen to anyone, is the tenure of the current chairman, Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, will be ending in October 2020 after he completes 3 years in office. After that, what happens, who becomes the chairman, whether he gets an extension. That's one factor, which nobody knows, and we've usually seen that whenever the chairman changes, things are always a little uncertain for equity investors, and which equity investors don't like. That's another negative factor from my perspective. Now, let's look at the valuation of State Bank of India. Now, like I mentioned before to you, that I am not going to complicate things for you, because people are already afraid of understanding a bank's financials, profitability, balance sheet, and all those parameters. So valuation is even more difficult. So I'm just going to put in some numbers which I have derived from my internal analysis and also referring to market reports on State Bank of India. So I'm not going to bombard you with all the mambo jumbo of how these numbers have been derived, but let me present it to you in a very simplistic manner. So the price for State Bank of India, the bank on a standalone basis, comes to around 160 rupees. That is derived from price to adjusted book parameters on the basis of the next 2 years. So that is around 160 rupees. Then it has other major subsidiaries. Some of them are SBI Life, which is listed in the market, SBI Cards, which is also listed in the market. Both these subsidiaries comprise around 100 rupees. Then there's SBI Mutual Fund, which is obviously still not listed, that that is valued around 20 rupees. And there are some other subsidiaries. Major ones are SBI General Insurance, SBI Caps, and its stake in Yes Bank, NSE, and a few other such things. So the total value of all subsidiaries adds up to around 130 rupees. Now we all know that when if you go out and try and sell all these things, you're not going to get the total value. And on an SOTP or a sum of total parts basis, you have to, that's why, give a holding company discount. Now I have considered a holding company discount of a little over 20%. Just to round it off, I have taken a number of 30 rupees, otherwise it will come to around 26 rupees. So the net value of all subsidiaries comes to 100 rupees. And if you add that to the standalone bank, the total value of the bank comes to 260 rupees. Now, from the current market price, that's a potential upside of around 38%. So, this is what the long-term potential looks like for the bank. But we also need to see what is the near-term potential, what will happen to the bank's stock price after it has risen sharply around 8% already on Friday. So, to discuss that, to see that, I'll take you directly to the derivatives chain, option chain. So here we are in the option chain of SBI. Now as we can see that the price close, the last traded price was around 189 on Friday. Now if you see the option chain, you will find that the highest call writing is at 200 rupees and the premium comes to around 7 odd rupees. Moreover, the position is also heavy on the put side, on the call side, sorry. So what we can decipher from this is that it will be difficult for the bank to cross 200 and close above it at the end of the expiry. Now in the near term it can definitely cross because the momentum has been so strong on Friday and the global markets also have been very strong, plus the bank Nifty has recently started outperforming Nifty. So there is some possibility that it can go above 210 or 220 rupees also. But beyond that, things look difficult. Let me also show you the chart of SBI, since lot many of you want to have a technical perspective also. So this is the long-term chart of SBI on a monthly basis. And as you can see, since around 2010-11, the stock has just been stuck in a very narrow range. So for the last 10 years, the price just does not go below 140, 150 rupees. What we saw very recently also in the month of March, it did not go below 150 levels. And on the upside, it just does not cross the 340, 350 levels. So we've been seeing that the stock has been stuck in that range for the last 10 years or so. And I continue to feel that for the next year or so, it will be in this range only. Because we've seen that the numbers are not great on the operational front. And there have been other concerns also, like, the moratorium. Initially it was for 3 months, then it got extended for 6 months. Then there's a case going on as to whether the interest payment should also be relaxed or not. So many other things are there. Let's also have a look at the weekly chart. If you see the volumes on the weekly chart, these volumes are the highest in over a decade. So you wouldn't find these volumes before. The only other instance of similar volumes was in 2017 when the recapitalization of PSU banks was announced. So even because the volumes are so strong after the results and the price has fallen so sharply, I think there is a possibility that it may just about cross the 210 or 220 barrier in this month, just because the momentum is so strong. But sustaining above that, I think it will need lot many more positives. So I think it's going to be stuck around the 200 210 range for the next few weeks. This is the kind of price move that we saw on Friday. So to give you the final picture, let's focus first on the near-term outlook. Now, as I showed you that the call writing at 200 levels is very strong, so it will just go up beyond 210 or so purely on a derivative basis as of the Friday closing basis. Maybe on Monday, if the momentum is strong, the call writing can shift a little higher because the weekly volumes have been the highest in the last 10 or maybe even 20 years. So that is very supportive for the price. And as we've seen that it has not fallen below 150 levels in the last decade. So that's a very strong support. And purely on a fundamental basis, in the very near term, it looks very difficult for the stock to move beyond the 240 to 250 price range. From a slightly longer term perspective, maybe a year or so, the valuations are supportive. As we have seen, the bank trades around 0.3 or zero point 0.4 times price to adjusted book basis. But the valuations have always been in this range, although they've come down slightly in the last 2-3 months, but they have always been relatively cheap as compared to the other private sector banks. Moreover, a very big question mark is who will be the new chairman after October 2020 when Mr. Rajneesh Kumar's term ends. Will he get an extension, or will the new chairman, who will be the new chairman, who will be appointed, and a lot of these questions come to investors' mind. And when there is an uncertainty, obviously investors don't prefer to own that stock, or maybe they tend to lighten their positions around these events. So that's my conclusion for State Bank of India results after what we've seen on Friday. That's it from my end. Thank you very much. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe it, like it, share your comment. And in case you wish to get in touch with me, I am available on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and of course on this YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching this video.